Okay. We did it.
Yes.
The cat in the box emoji thingy.
We have made the jump to ludicrous speed.
Ludicrousness. I mean, ludicrous. But it is Catterday.
It is indeed.
Yeah, and I discovered there's a guy who does a rap song about Catterday. And he has like a whole bunch of like 2 albums where he just has rap songs about his cats.
Only you, Doug. Only you.
I'm Steve Sally.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone. Happy Saturday, and welcome to another episode in the Roadway Wiz Virtual Tour series. Tonight, our 10th episode in the series, we'll be taking a look at the Interstate 77 corridor across southwestern Virginia and southern West Virginia, including the entire 90-mile length of the West Virginia Turnpike. Welcome in tonight. It's great to have you with us. Roadway Wiz here. Let's introduce our guest panel tonight, because we actually have a lot of names to get through tonight. We have quite the cast of characters with us. Let's see, who the hell is even here? Anthony from Connecticut is here. We've got Scott from Wisconsin. You guys can let us know that you're alive too. That's okay.
I'm alive.
Okay, there we go. Mike and Laura from Maryland are also with us.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Hi, Happy New Year. Adam from North Carolina of
Good evening.
Of Gribble Nation fame. Doug from New York of Gribble Nation fame.
Good evening, English. This is Doug Adaya.
Josh from Bill's Mafia, New York, is also here.
Go Bills!
Go Bills!
And,
Go Coins!
Who else? Did I miss anybody? That was everybody, right?
And then Colton Nash in the background sometimes.
And the future...
Yes, and our daughter Rainey, too.
Yes, the 3 future webmasters of Gribble Nation, Colton, Nash, and Rainey are with us also, so... We have a lot of people joining us tonight, and hopefully those of you in the live chat will enjoy our presentation tonight. So settle in. Before we get going too far, though, we have our traditional announcements segment. I will try to make this as brief as possible because we do have a lot to get to tonight. Let's see here. YouTube uploads update. We continue uploading videos of the St. Louis metropolitan area. We finished up Interstate 44 the other day. We still have a lot of footage of Interstates 55, 64, and 70, as well as some other stuff pertaining to St. Louis area freeways. We will also have coverage of Interstates 69, 269, and 555 coming in short order. That series will take us from today through January 24th. Now, heads up and pay attention, because I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of what you can expect on the channel through early April. Okay, so we finish out the St. Louis-Memphis series on the 24th of this month. Immediately starting after that, we have a new series on these dates, which will take us through late February. That will be the great state of Vermont. There will be a lot of videos dumped from that state during that period.
Yay, Vermonting!
Vermonting, yeah. We haven't done enough for that on this channel, but that's going to change soon.
Liz will show you Vermont.
Yes!
Might as well, because, I couldn't get out west this year, so I might as well focus on some more local stuff. But, the Vermont stuff will include all the remaining interstate highway footage and some other significant highways, including the bypasses around Bennington, Rutland, and Burlington. And there will be a few other things as well. I think there's a downtown tour of Burlington and Montpelier and maybe one or two other places in there. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, that kind of stuff you can expect to see over a 4-week period in the late January through mid to late February period. Then starting on the 21st of February and running through early April, we have a more general effort on my part to upload the remaining interstate mileage that I've covered in the northeastern states. This is all of the interstate mileage north and east of the Potomac River. So the states of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and any state east or north of there will have 100% interstate highway coverage on the channel by early April. So
Yes!
Hooray!
So I'm finally getting around to posting the final videos of Interstate 66. I redid some footage of 68 recently. All of 70 in Maryland and Pennsylvania will be completed. All of 270 in Maryland. All of 83 in Pennsylvania and Maryland. All of 81 in Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia. What else? All of 78. Somehow I'm missing some of 78 in Pennsylvania, but that'll be uploaded. And the rest of 79 in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So that's the rundown on that batch of videos coming in March predominantly. So that's what you have to look forward to on the channel. That's your roadmap for the next 3 months. All right?
Roads!
Now, Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2021. If you're watching this video, you made it to the new year. Congratulations. Achievement
Hooray!
unlocked.
2020? Yes? No?
There's one metric I want to bring up here that I didn't bring up in the year in review presentation last week. But before I do that, I'll say that all metrics in the analytics with my channel, viewership counts, subscriber counts, whatever you want to call it, everything was up a range of 25 to 40% in 2020 over the previous year. We had a record-setting year as far as view time and watch time. And speaking of watch time, I did the math here because I'm an engineer, and I discovered that between all of the view time, all the views from everybody, and all the watch time that everybody, sat and watched videos on my channel, it added up to 203,000 hours of watch time, which means that you guys wasted a collective 8,460 days of civilization watching my channel. You guys are a bunch of losers, and you should watch something else.
Yay!
No. We could do better. You should challenge us to do more.
I'm kidding, of course. But I'm glad you guys have watched everything.
Yeah, don't discourage the crowd.
I'll discourage whoever I want, okay? But no, seriously, thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure doing these videos all these years, and I'm glad that there's an audience for them out there. So, again, thank you. I'm glad the channel continues to grow, and hopefully when all this craziness is over, we'll be able to keep growing the catalog to new states and new cities. By the way, the New Year's Eve live drive that I did had the highest turnout in channel history also. So talk about ending 2020 on a strong note. We managed to do it. All right. I got one more issue to bring up with you guys. We need to discuss the NFL playoff picture really quick. I know that we have fans of several teams that are in the mix that are joining us right now. We'll start real quick in the NFC. I think we know it's basically Green Bay in the driver's seat right now. You see the opponents here in Week 17 right here. So if the playoffs started today, these would be the matchups, although, these are obviously subject to change. What you notice about the playoff picture in the NFC is, look who's still alive down here.
Ooh, football team!
Yeah.
The football team!
There's a football team in the 4th spot right now.
All they have to do is, they have to win, and Washington has to lose. And we'll have our first ever 6-10 team make the playoffs.
Which would be absolutely bonkers.
Awesome. It would be awesome.
You know what? They were saying that the difference between the Giants winning and making the playoffs and losing the game and ending the year at 5-11 is a difference of, say, picking 7th in the draft and picking 19th. So, but then again, if you make the playoffs, you make the playoffs, right? So
yes.
Well, yeah.
Either way, in Shondor, the Eagles are out. But if it works out that way, we'll just have to say just a second, checking to see if they're all still in boys.
See, the problem is that since the Patriots are not in the playoffs, the Giants can't fill their role as the spy piece in Stratego this year.
No, if the Giants get in as the 4, they would play Tom Brady.
Yep.
So maybe the Giants have one more FU up their sleeves. You never know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I think the NFC picture is a lot clearer compared to the absolute mess that we have right now in the AFC. If you are a fan of Kansas City, if you are a fan of Buffalo, you're sitting back and saying, hey, these guys, you're sitting back and you're looking at this jambalaya of 4 through 8 in the AFC, and you're like, well, we're glad we're not caught up in the middle of that, because there is a reasonable chance that somebody with 11 wins is not going to make the playoffs in the AFC in a year that a team with 10 losses makes it in the NFC.
And judging by this, it looks like the Browns might be being Cleveland again.
Well, if you believe the COVID situation in Cleveland and how dire it might be,
The Browns fans shouldn't be upset because the real Browns are gonna be in the playoffs.
Well, the real Browns, yeah.
Go Baltimore Browns! Woo!
They're the recycled Browns, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, the recycled Browns are still in it.
Yeah, they're very much in it. I don't see them losing to Cincinnati, so I think they're in.
You never know. Cincinnati beat up Pittsburgh, so
They did beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. All that matters is as long as the Steelers beat the Browns, I can just send a note to Brian LeBlanc of the shirt that I just got for Christmas that says Pittsburgh won the game yesterday.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to, well, basically the 4 seed here is for the AFC South Division. All Tennessee has to do is win, and then they win the division. After that, the 3 wild card teams are really up for grabs. I do think that the best path forward is Baltimore's, because I just think that they have the much more manageable opponent. I don't know what's going to happen with Miami. I don't know if the Bills are resting people on Sunday.
they are not from what I have seen. So
yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. Pittsburgh, we know, is resting people, but again, Cleveland's got the COVID bugs, so we don't know how that's going to play out with them. And Indianapolis, their opponent isn't listed here for whatever reason, but Indy has Jacksonville, so you figure that they're going to probably pull that one out. But again, they're playing second fiddle to Tennessee, who would have to lose to Houston. So, you figure that the best path forward in the wild card race is Baltimore. After that, it would take a slip up from either Miami or Cleveland to get Indianapolis in, which is entirely reasonable at this point.
Yeah.
But again, somebody with at least 10 wins in the AFC is not going to the playoffs. In a year that we added a playoff spot. This is the first year with 7 teams per conference. So,
Who's rooting for ties?
Solved the problem. Guess what? It didn't.
yeah, well,
That's it all. But who's rooting? I'd love to see a bunch of ties just to mess it up.
yeah.
yeah.
Root for the tie.
Well, it's so easy to get it now with these shortened overtimes, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I know that there will be a lot of nervous fans in the AFC South division tomorrow, including yours truly. But hopefully we can move on to the tournament and take our chances against whoever it is we got to play. So,
and of course, I'm looking forward to hockey season finally.
Well, you shouldn't be just yet. You got playoff football ahead of you.
I'm always looking forward to hockey season. It could be July 15th. I'm like, ooh, hockey season's coming.
Yay, hockey!
Well, I saw the new UBS Arena yesterday. It's coming along nicely.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You wearing a Thrashers jersey in any honor?
No, I was not. No.
Okay.
So here's the map real quick of the I-77 corridor that we're going to drive. You see I-81 in the bottom right here. 77 comes up from North Carolina and meets I-81 near the town of Wytheville. And we're going to follow it from there on northward out to the west suburbs of Charleston. That is a drive of 140 miles, roughly. So tonight is our first episode of West Virginia material in Season 2. Next Saturday, we're going to have our first episode of Michigan material. We will be back in webinar format next Saturday. The time, I'm going to warn you, is subject to change due to potential conflicts with the NFL playoffs, but we are going to try to work that out amongst us early in the week as soon as the schedules are released. So we will solidify a start time for that as soon as possible. We're going to talk about the freeways of southeastern Michigan. We'll also talk about the international bridges, even though, guess what, I wasn't able to cross any of them this year, but they're still there. I was still able to document them as well as I could, so we'll talk about them. And for those of you interested in joining us tomorrow, we have our next interview in the Roadway Whiz interview series, and we're going to sit down with one of the administrators of the AA Roads Forum. In fact, he's sitting in this audience right now, and we haven't had a lot of conversation about the forum in general in these interviews, so we're going to try to change that a little bit, and we're going to give you a different look at one of the key cogs in the road enthusiast hobby, which is the AA Roads Forum. So hope you can join us for that tomorrow evening. Does anybody have any questions before we get started with the video? Or, well, that's...
I'm fine, but I am speaking with the mayor of West Virginia.
That you are. So...
Nothing beats.
Yeah. My term expired a long time ago, but I think that my that has been granted on a honorary basis now.
Mayor Emeritus of West Virginia.
Or
should it be Governor Emeritus? Because, you know, West Virginia would be a state, I suppose.
True, yeah, you would be the Governor Emeritus.
Yeah. Somebody's asking questions here. Let's see before we start the video. Any new interstate video? I don't think I have any new upstate New York videos to put up at this point. So I haven't had to make that decision. But
and did your drone enter Canada?
I'll answer that question in a few minutes, actually, once we start the video, because we'll have to kill some time here during this trip. So I'll tell you a little bit about the drone stuff in Michigan during the trip. But all right, this video is about 1 hour and 55 minutes. We are here in Wytheville, Virginia, so sit back and enjoy the trip up I-77.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Stop at the redundant stop signs.
Yeah, how about the double?
I was going to say, do you have to stop twice?
Yeah, I think.
From the Department of Redundancy Department.
Yeah.
It's just one for each flashing red. It's balanced.
Yep.
Feng shui.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, Virginia has their nice white painted poles.
I know where you're at.
Whoa. White and yellow, white and yellow, white and yellow, white and yellow.
Back to yellow, back to yellow, back to yellow.
And we just passed the Cracker Barrel.
I got a Cracker Barrel gift card for Christmas. So I, when I saw that, I told my sister, I'm like, "Hey, I can pay Jason Ellis's salary now."
But it wouldn't be you paying it. It would be whoever bought the gift card.
Well, I guess they did outlast the Bob Evans, because when we went through in September, that has closed.
Oh, not the Bob Evans.
Yeah, nobody can go down on the farm anymore.
Oh, man. Woo.
Burns.
I have a feeling this is going to be like Mystery Science Theater 3000 tonight.
No, that's exactly what it sounds like.
You know, it's funny you say that, Adam, because that's usually how it ends up happening.
I know, well, yeah.
Well, anyway, here's the wrong way concurrency.
It's in the lower right-hand corner.
Yeah, well, speaking of right-hand corner, we just passed a sign that told us that we're both on southbound 77, south 81, north 77, and west 52. We're going in 3 directions at once. Imagine that.
And you were on north 11 at that point.
I was going to say, where'd the 11 shield go, or did that already...
That's where 11 leaves.
Okay.
That's
There we go.
South, north, east, west, whatever.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I saw this wrong way concurrency in real life. I was on my way actually to Mount Rogers to go hiking, and I got so excited.
Well, here's the thing about that. If Virginia had changed, if Virginia went with a different route in 1960 when they were planning I-77, this wouldn't exist. What they were hoping to do, they had 2 corridors, what you see now and what we'll be driving on. But the other one was basically going to leave the West Virginia Turnpike, follow 460 east towards Virginia, and then cut down Virginia 100 and pick up 81 there. So you would never, if that was built, we would not have, basically, I would say, joke when somebody takes a picture of it, they've unlocked the wrong way multiplex in Wytheville achievement. So if that would have been done, it's like in North Carolina, you have to go to the North Carolina Transportation Museum and take a photo of the cutouts. It's like a rite of passage. But if they had done that, we wouldn't have had that. So,
well, that also would have produced a longer route. So
yes, yeah. So one thing on here, if you're heading southbound, so on the left here, right around where that bridge is, the local county sheriff like to sit. And they like to sit here too. So it never fails. I'm guessing you're not here this way, but typically on my trips back and forth to Pennsylvania, that 3/4 of the time, there's usually somebody that's gotten pulled over just as a result from that bridge headed towards Wytheville.
Of course, they were looking for reckless drivers.
Of course.
Don't you dare go 81 miles an hour.
Tisk.
Or I guess it's at 86 now.
It is now 86 miles an hour.
86 now.
It's
They made it a
86
little bit
only
more
in
reasonable.
70 zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I posted
Yeah,
a link
I
to the I-77 closing the gap to the chat. So
That was a fun
Yeah.
research. I've always known that. I mean, there's always been talk. Roberson has it, and that's where it first came up. Actually, before prior to that, it looked like it was going to go to the west in North Carolina, and basically for about 5 years, North Carolina shifted it to the east where it follows now, and Virginia wanted it would go down to about Hillsville or that area, and then it would go to the west, and then through what I believe was Low Gap. I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head. And they really didn't come to an agreement to build that until 1965-66. So for a couple of years in the 60s, you had basically North Carolina wanted to cross the state line at one point, which goes up the mountain, and Virginia wanted it to be about 8 to 12 miles to the east, to the west. Excuse me. So there was a little bit of dilemma on building the Canton to Charlotte Interstate, as they called it, in the early years of it, and then after that was settled, North Carolina really went pretty fast on building it, and obviously West Virginia completed it in around 1977-78. So
And what? It doesn't count north of Canton?
No, because it already was planned.
Oh, okay.
It was already planned.
It's like, is this meant to be some dig on Cleveland?
79, and then at some point to 77 still.
Seton Hall won, apparently.
Oh, hey.
Wow. Miracles do happen.
Yes. Last time I was in this area, I actually took 52 from Wytheville up to the state line, and that's a nice drive. Goes through like the Big Walker Mountain, a little more curvy. Nice alternative if you have some time, as opposed to taking 77, which is also a very nice drive.
Yeah, that's a drive I've been hoping to take at some point. So
52, it's nice. I haven't done it in a while, but it's a Dutch one. What's interesting on this is a little sign things on that. You'll see where this exit's coming up and is right before the first tunnel. For a number of years, until about when they put these signs up, so in the last 10 years or so, it used to be just a sign with the number 717 on it. I think I might have it somewhere. But there was no circle shield. It just had 717, if I'm not mistaken. It might have had the circle shield, but it wasn't really marked. But the name of the exit or anything, so it was probably original to when the highway was built or anything like that. But just something you don't really see anymore anyway. And that was right here at this exit.
I believe we just clinched a county.
We did.
Did we?
Yes.
Somebody's either catching up or passing Jeff Kitsko.
They should send him a text and say, got another county.
Yeah, so
we're
now in Bland County. We started this video in what I guess would be pronounced Wythe County, not Wythe.
I never know the right pronunciation of that.
Yeah.
So we have a tunnel.
Does county tension count if it's through a Wiz video? Because if so, that's a new county for Rainey.
No. You have to actually be there.
No, I called BS.
Plain County, it's good.
No, this counts. This
Your
counts.
feet or your windows, your feet or your wheels should be there.
This is one of 2 tunnels on 77, and always Colton went upstairs, but he would always say, "Have we gotten to one of the tunnels yet?" And everything else. And this is kind of a highlight that keeps the kids occupied on this trip when we go up from Raleigh or now Charlotte to Pennsylvania.
It's a very Pennsylvania Turnpike style design.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminds me of.
The Big Walker is a little bit. I don't know if you will be able to catch it here. I'll notice that there is a state line notification, a little small blade that signifies or designates the state line inside the Big Walker. This is a nice view. This is actually, I think, it's been a while since 100. There's a nice faded Thomas Jefferson National Forest sign that's turned brown to green. But this is a real nice stretch here of 77. I think this is actually one of the better stretches of highways in the East Coast, and it's one that I enjoy driving.
Yeah, the 77 trip, like this whole stretch from 81 all the way out to Charleston, I thought was really one of the more scenic stretches, certainly of toll highway in the eastern U.S., but in general, it's a pretty... I get the feeling it's an underrated, underappreciated drive in general.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes to show you how rugged some of the Central Appalachian mountains are. There really are not a lot of mountain tunnels in the United States, but this is an interstate that has 2 of them. Used to have 3.
Is that a Doug CRV that you're behind in the here, just with all the bikes? Doug, I didn't know you had a family.
Yeah, he was with his Amish family. You didn't know that?
That's Ray Honda's brother.
We're on our way to racing a barn.
You can get some good barns out this way.
So this is
little Doug Ezekiel was churning butter.
Doug Ezekiel.
I see Your brake lights, which you can come
Yeah,
across.
so the story behind that, I decided, I'll just grow a beard for the winter. I'm not really going anywhere, seeing anyone. So I was talking to my brother, and my brother bought me an Amish hat for Christmas.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is my twin brother, and he's like, it's like, now you look like the Amish. I'm like, okay. So I came up like, I'll be Dugadiah or something like that.
Well, I saw Doug get out of his car this afternoon, and I was like, holy crap, he's like already mastered the Amish appearance.
He's got it down. I
Yeah.
saw it tap the brake lights a bit here. With this being 2 lanes, and I'm wondering if you experienced this a bit on your 77 part, where when you're climbing some of these hills, when you have 18-wheelers trying to pass each other, that it can get really slow, and you'll get some basically back.
Yeah, well, that's an issue in West Virginia in general, I found.
This 77
I
too.
think we're still in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need mountains to have micro-passing trucks, but it does become a more acute thing if you have an upgrade and no climbing lane.
Yeah.
So for the road geeky people that like this kind of stuff, this is exit 52 for US 52. And
it's very bland.
For Virginia
Yeah.
42.
I spent a week there one day.
Me.
Yeah. So.
You go through here.
Did your drone enter Canada?
Oh, you want to talk about the drone for a minute?
Yeah, sure, why not?
So obviously, you can become certified to fly in the U.S., but Canadian drone laws are different, and they have different laws as far as who can be permitted and the airspace that you're allowed to fly in. So having no real understanding of the Canadian side of the border's rules on such things, I always made sure that I stayed on the to the American side of the midpoint of the Detroit River, because that's technically where the border is. So, like you'll see, there's a lot of pictures of the Detroit side of the Ambassador Bridge, but there's obviously no pictures of the Windsor side, and the reason for that is because of airspace differences, and also the fact that I couldn't cross the bridge because of the pandemic closing the bridges to non-essential travel.
Well, okay, but so is there an issue with flying the drone across the border if you have the credentials to fly it on both sides?
That's a good question.
I would imagine the answer to that is no, but in order for me to legally do that, I would have to become certified in both countries. So I still don't really know what it would require for that to happen, but it's one of those things that I'll look into for the future.
This is a nice to go here. This is coming up on the truck escape ramp. This is actually a pretty nice section here coming down this hill or mountain. Depending on where you're from in the world, it's a hill or a mountain. But
with escape ramp as verbiage rather than runaway truck ramp.
This is a nice ramp.
I'm not mistaken. That's not
Runaway. A lot of trucks think about running away.
This is a nice hill to ski on.
That's great.
No, that's over at the Pass in California.
It's also interesting that is a ramp that actually seems to be primarily using upgrade as the means of arresting the velocity of the errant vehicle, whereas very often they're not using gravity for that. They have deep gravel beds that you're supposed to sink into, or something similar.
Well, getting a Canadian drone license is apparently involves taking an online test.
So a little more difficult than becoming an online minister.
Oh yes.
Do you have to be in Canada to take the test?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't,
because they could check IPs on that.
Yeah, I mean, right now they aren't allowing international applicants, but
In normal times, they might.
In normal times, anyone can take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know what the deal is right now. I only had the drone since late July, so it just wasn't enough time to turn around and figure out everything that I needed to do to, possibly contemplate cross-border flight. But
I'll say once again that you having that drone, I think it is going to change how people with the hobby. I think it's just a great addition to things, and it adds a different perspective that, quite honestly, no one's doing yet. And I'm kind of like, I kind of want a drone now too.
Yeah.
You just stated something that I have been thinking for quite some time, but just haven't acted on it because I'm not comfortable spending the money on it yet.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, you're right about it being unique. I don't know anybody else in our community who's doing the kind of things that I'm trying to do. So it is definitely another way for me to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
And obviously, the aerial perspective on things, I think, gives us a different level of appreciation for landmarks that maybe we've known all our lives, but we've never seen them quite from that angle.
Between drone footage and podcasts, we're breaking new ground in the hobby these days.
Speaking of podcasts, you guys have unrolled your first episodes of that, and maybe if you want to post in the live chat the link to that. But you, Doug, and Adam are off to a strong start with your respective episodes.
As for the Gribble Nation Roadcast is what we're calling it. Mm-hmm. And I just posted a link to the Gribble Nation Roadcast. Just a couple of episodes we've done so far. We're learning as we go along to an extent, I would say.
Yeah, I started my first one. It's going to be called The Junction. I'm going to try to have that like every week or every other week on Tuesdays and have things lined up. One thing, that rest area back there, it's a nice one. It's one of two northbound. One's at the state line in North Carolina and this one here. And Laura, it has a lot of room for the kids to play. It's actually a really good rest area. It's not usually pretty crowded.
Awesome. We will definitely check that out.
It sounds like you made me happy there.
I hear an unhappy kid in the background. I hope she doesn't need to stop at the rest area.
She wants husband's pen.
No.
But with the podcast, we're hoping to I'm going to have Jeff Kitsko on to talk some PA things that have been written. My real good friend Chris Allen, Doug and I have curled with him before, and he has 2 kids, and he was famous for his playground reviews from his road trips. And his blog was really good. I wish he would redo it, but we'll be talking a lot of just our travels with our kids and everything else in the upcoming months.
Yeah, so it'll be a mix of probably interviews, probably like some roundtable discussions, and sometimes just blabbering on about our road-related thoughts on the roads in which we travel.
Great shots.
And races on the
Great shots of the roads we travel.
You can see the crown on the road between these 2 trucks here.
Yeah.
So that's an
race.
That's very Virginia. The 2 trucks clogging the 2 lanes.
And you see that a lot here on all of 77 in Virginia.
There's no speed differentials between the trucks in Virginia, I assume.
That's correct, and it's really more prevalent. I think the hills are a little more up and down, steeper here, with the exception of the last 8 miles, as someone mentioned, down Fancy Gap. But they're more frequent south of 81, and there's times where the summertime where you can just have heavy traffic backed up either from a wreck or just from volume on 77, basically from Fort Chiswell down to really the bottom of the mountain. So
yeah. But
we're getting ready to go into soon. Going here is this 61, if not mistaken. I think 61's a very short road in Virginia. If that's the one that is just like a dangling off of 52 or the exit here. That might have been the one back further. I can't remember which exit. I don't have my Virginia map in front of me. But what you're seeing here is typical heavy. The engineers here can explain it better. You guys basically have explained it in much better technical detail than I could ever dream of why you see this kind of stuff here. And it would be nice if they could, especially south of 81, add a passing lane if they could at some places. But that's just
the really short route you're thinking of is 598, and that's the next exit.
Well, no, there's one. Hold on, let me get my Virginia map out.
So 61 runs from Tazewell all the way over to Narrows.
Yeah, that is correct. He said.
Yeah,
598 runs from
598 is all 52.
Yes, it is.
But there is a small route, and I've been to it, and I'm looking up. I got my map out here.
655?
No, of course that's not state official. But we're getting ready to go. I'll get that here in a second. Of course, I'm looking through. It's probably right in front of me. I missed it. Oh, look, Virginia State map. It is.
Well, look, someone being a jerk where a lane ends.
If you guys are 98 in Bland, so if you exit 52, you saw where the exit said 52 and 42. Well, in Bland, there's a little short route, Virginia 98, that's less than a mile long. That actually. So if you wanted just to clinch a obscure Virginia route, get off that exit and do it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Route clinching fun for everyone.
Well, then it becomes a secondary, basically right outside of town.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're getting ready to if I'm making this right, the East River. I had it mistaken before. I apologize. I'll turn in my Road Geek card now.
Resign.
But, yes, 598. I'm sure some people would be happy about that. But 598 was US 52. If you go up there, it comes around basically to a gap in the mountain. There's a nice scenic view, I think, if I'm not mistaken, just after the state line in West Virginia. It is, but it used to, if I'm not I'm trying to remember if it used to 52 not be signed as an exit or 598. One of the two weren't.
Yeah.
I think 52 wasn't. It used to just say 598 in the past, but.
And my understanding is that the 598 at the state line, that has a nice scenic overlook. I want to say there's a fire tower there too, but I'm not quite sure about that.
So keep your eyes on the left. I got a blurry picture of this once. There is a state line sign for Virginia and West Virginia in the middle of the tunnel.
And so who maintains this tunnel?
Yeah, I think they both split it.
Okay. It changes at the midpoint, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
They're slowing down. Dan, they must be really knowing that I was going to bring this up. They're slowing down enough for me to. Oh no, that's just their regular lights. Never mind. I thought they were brake lights.
No, yeah. I mean, there are brake lights in there too, but
yeah. Right there on the left, you see that right? No, that's it. That's the sign right there. Was the West? It says VA line, West Virginia line on it. I have a really blurry picture.
It's not obvious to the casual driver.
You have to be looking for it. You're exactly right.
Right. Well, I think it's one of those things. It's not a sign that's meant to alert the motorist. Hey, the state line is here. It's more, a reference thing so that crews know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
right.
Just out of curiosity, I noticed a lot of tunnels on the east side of the United States, east coast or eastern half of the United States, tend to prohibit lane changes, whereas like some tunnels elsewhere just don't care.
If I'm not mistaken, they used to allow it, they used to quote unquote. People do it all the time in these two tunnels, but they used to allow it once in Virginia. I want to say that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Some changing lanes was allowed in those tunnels until probably 10, 15 years ago, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say, if going like some western tunnels, like the Carlin Tunnel on I-80 in Nevada, that I believe allows passing.
So does the Eisenhower Tunnel in Colorado.
So here we go.
Welcome to West Virginia, everybody.
Yes, wild and wonderful.
All right.
Great unforced.
Now I have a craving for pepperoni rolls.
We have 95 miles to Charleston.
So I think we were joking on before this about Tamarack, and let me tell the story about that. And I always, since we're talking about food, I always thought the signs say Tamarack, the best of West Virginia. I always thought it was I would always read it.
Who's advertising a railroad crossing up here?
Oh, the taste of West Virginia. Well, we'll get to the railroad, but I always thought Tamarack was the taste of West Virginia for some reason. They probably had pepperoni rolls there, Doug.
Yeah, I wonder if it'd be like the test of West Virginia.
The
test of Italy.
I dated a girl that went to West Virginia University. She was a puppetry major. Yes, there was such a thing. And she actually performed at Tamarack once right after it opened.
Wow.
Back in the mid-90s.
So it is that recent.
Yeah, it's, I think it opened 90, let's see, Christy and I dated. I've dated
96.
96, thanks, Laura.
96. Yeah.
You're right. And that's when I was dating Christy. So yeah, that Christy.
Okay.
I've dated 3 Christies.
No.
What is that? Is that your type?
After the third one, I met a Maggie, and I was better.
Okay, so you figured it out.
Yeah, he had enough of Christie's by that point.
So, have we reached the Dave Watts Memorial Beloved Railroad Crossing?
No, that's coming up in a couple miles, I think.
Hello, friends.
So, is there any? What's the story behind the railroad trestle we're about to cross or pass under?
It's just what's there. I don't know much of it except Dave Watts likes to take pictures of it all the time.
Is that the one? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yes, it is. It's narrow. I don't think it's active. And it's kind of like, it's like for those of you that might be familiar with Pittsburgh area and the Parkway West, or some people like to call it the Penn Lincoln. It was, but the Parkway West to the west side of the Fort Pitt tunnels, there's an old, still active railroad trestle where it's like built through it, and it's very similar to that.
Yeah, it did remind me of the trestles in the Pittsburgh area when I saw it for the first time. But this stretch of I-77 is we're not yet on the Turnpike itself. This first few miles between the state line at the end of the tunnel and exit 9 at 460 is maintained by the State Highway Department of West Virginia. The West Virginia Parkways Authority takes over when we get past 460.
Parkways, because, that's what it is.
It's West Virginia, man. That's how they roll.
Yeah.
Just in case they build another one.
Yeah, you may have that wheeling feeling.
Yeah.
We're not going to wheel.
I know they were talking I know there's been there are proposals of extending I-68 out to Moundsville.
Is that still a thing?
I have no idea.
Hey, it's the exit 9. So the exit 9 is also home to the west. You have to take the exit to go to the Welcome Center, which I've been to, and there's actually a nice water feature that's the West Virginia, I think, Vietnam Veterans Memorial right there. We stopped there a good bit to get food or different things like that. Also, the last emergency. Oh, great! My Easy Pass isn't working, and it's the only real place that I can get money out of an ATM machine before I pay toll.
Yeah.
So this is the beloved railroad trestle.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
My beloved trestle.
It's quite interesting.
It's not as regal as the Grand Central Parkway, but it's close.
But,
I actually drove under that interchange today in Kew Gardens.
No, I'm not surprised.
Well, that's the best way out of Long Island.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, for me.
So this is coming up. What's also interesting is they cut off this extra third lane, passing truck lane, right before the exit, which I wish they didn't do, but.
Yeah, that is weird. When we get to the top of the hill, there's a lane drop, and then immediately there's a decel lane right after that.
But there's a lot of Oh God, I can't remember what the kids name. We're coming back from Pennsylvania, Maggie and I. It was before kids, and we stopped at an Arby's at this one, and the kid's name was Sparkle.
Oh, Arby's.
Have the meats.
Great minds think alike, Anthony.
The McDonald's there has like a 2-story super maze inside play area that I've had to climb up because Colton didn't want to leave. There is the southern.
Understandable.
Yeah, but yeah, you can see where the line drops off. This is the former terminus. 460 is new here. This part, it used to cross just north of this. You can see the rest area right to the right, right there that goes through. One time we were there, they didn't have any maps. I think we could have had. Welcome to the West Virginia Turnpike sign, the Parkways Authority. And if you see the clearing to the left of the southbound lanes, that was the original turnpike that led to the exit for where it terminated at US 460.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So we should talk briefly about just some of the overall history of the turnpike. It was built originally in the 50s. One of the more interesting things about it was that it was built as a 2-lane highway. It was not built initially as a 4-lane. The modernization of the turnpike came much later in the 70s and 80s. But it was dubbed the 88 Miles of Miracle during its construction because it was one of the most intense and dangerous road projects in the eastern United States at the time. It involved the construction of, as I said, 88 miles of highway connecting Princeton with Charleston. It features the Chuck Yeager Bridge at the north end of the turnpike and also the Memorial Tunnel, which was the lone tunnel on the West Virginia Turnpike. But as we're going to discuss in about 50 miles, that tunnel no longer exists, and there's a nice little bypass that was built in the 80s as part of the modernization.
Exits that weren't original to the Turnpike.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm guessing you know which ones those are.
Most of them, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to tell because the original Turnpike was a ticket system.
Yep.
So
If there's a plaza on the ramp.
Yeah. Well, most of them are gone, and some of them,
most of them are gone. If it's a trumpet interchange, it is original. If it is not, it is probably not original.
Yeah. So, like West Virginia 16, which is a trumpet interchange in Beckley, is not original. The Beckley interchange is actually just north of the existing West Virginia 3 interchange, and I'll show that as we get there. There's a lot of stuff going on in Beckley, I'll tell, but this exit coming up was not original. Basically, you didn't drive. You went from Bluefield, where we just passed, all the way to Beckley without any interchanges. There was a rest area, and I'll get and different things, but it was pretty much empty. Just 2 lanes. Of this,
So that would have been a bit over 30 miles.
Yes.
Kind of reminds me of I-90 in Illinois. There are 2 trumpet interchanges where I haven't proven this, but I think they were just ticket interchanges. It was a ticket-only system on that road, and those are probably the only 2 interchanges on it, and they had the toll booths on it. State Street in Rockford and US 20 in Hampshire.
And in the chat, Matthew Wong, you're exactly right. The only ramp plaza that's left is off of 77 North at Corridor L and onto 77 South at Corridor L. For all of us Yinzers trying to go back and forth from the south.
Oh, that's the only one?
Yep.
Yeah, the only one that's...
I did not realize that was the only one. I passed through it, and I said, okay, they clearly got some of these. No, okay, they only got one.
Yup, it's just that.
They got to fleece the Pittsburghers and the Buffalonians somehow.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this wasn't now for its. There was some time before they did that some of the exits did have, basically not barrier, but some ramps like the US 3, the West Virginia 3, actually had it on as you were going south onto 77 and north and off of it, north 77. There used to be toll barrier there until like the late 80s, and you used to be able to see where like the old power part for it used to be and everything else. And if maybe I'll try to see if I can see it from your video here. But there were some, they got rid of them over time. When they opened them and added them, they did have tolls on it, and then they took them out with the exception of Corridor L.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I wanted to jump in and add a little bit of more history. What I think is so interesting about the West Virginia Turnpike is that it came about and was built prior to the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956.
Yep, and they had plans. Go ahead, sorry, Laura.
No, it's okay. No, just that the final alignment was chosen in 1951, and that the first section opened in 54, and that the original plans had it as a 4-lane highway, but they deemed that was just way too expensive, and then they changed the routing a few times. What they wanted to be the northern and southern terminuses.
Yeah.
Termini. Changed.
And then in time, they thought they would expand it. In fact, North Carolina and Virginia looked at it having a toll road. I haven't really had a chance to research it much. I don't know how much detail it is, but heading south, basically following today's 77 or some general idea of it as a toll road connecting to the West Virginia Turnpike at one point in the early 50s.
Yeah,
they probably spent more money doing all this research and changing everything than they could have just putting a 4-lane there. But they probably, like you said, they probably didn't justify that 4-lane because of lack of traffic count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, building in West Virginia is just extremely challenging because you're literally moving mountains.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how I just lost my train of thought. That's amazing.
Hey, so coming up to this rest area and the bridge coming up, this is a northbound only one. It used to be serviced by both when it was 2 lanes, and they widened it. There's a couple old postcards that show this interchange. This when it was 2 lanes. That you can find on the internet and different things like that, and somebody can look at, that shows it where it widened to 4 lanes and you literally had to cross over the 2 lanes of traffic to go back north or south. This bridge here, and to the left, you see right there is an no services truck rest area, which was used for construction here. You see that little road to the left, that leads to a scenic view of these bridges here in the river below. I don't think that's open anymore, or not really open. I stopped there once or twice, didn't get any good photos, so I haven't been back. But this, if you go to do a image search, you can see what the West Virginia Turnpike looked right there at that rest area and the bridges here, 60 years ago.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. So that the West Virginia Turnpike, with the modernization, was one of the few interstates that received the 90% federal funding, while also being allowed to be charged the toll because it was so expensive.
I know that.
Because to dualize it, yeah, because I mean, most of the remaining toll roads out there that are used as part of the interstate system predated it, and so they, the toll was the way to fund its construction before the feds threw a bunch of money at building interstates. But they've just persisted as toll roads since, for the most part.
This is another non-original interchange, and this is quite a hill climb coming up that we're going to come up on 19. I mean, on Turnpike after we cross 19. Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, they may have it or not, but so people don't get confused for some reason, they continue like they do on 79 South, where they don't have 19 on it. There was a time where they did not have on the southbound, saying that it was a US 19 exit, because of through travelers from Canada and Western New York and Western Pennsylvania. For some reason, they would take that. They took the shields off. I don't know I think they've put them back on, at least on the Turnpike, but I know on 79 South, where places, with the exception of Sutton and the Beckley exit, where 19 crosses it, they don't denote it when you go southbound.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that being confusing to someone who isn't familiar. Is that right? Is that if you're looking for corridor L there, that right, you're going to see a US 19 shield and think, oh, this is my exit. No, it isn't.
Nope.
Nor is the next one that's right for 19. Nor is the one after that. You got a few more to go.
Yep, keep going.
So this was recently reduced to 60 as a safety measure. I think they're trying to, in time, go back up to 65, maybe even 70 here. I asked this Brian Powell, asked one time, and Brian Powell, who knows pretty much everything, a lot of things in West Virginia, said that they've added, you can see the flashing chevrons and other safety measures, that it was a temporary reduction. I don't know if they've made it permanent or not, but it used to be, I believe, 65, maybe even 70. But it's
a high crash location.
I think it's also, yes, and also fog.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think we're going uphill in this direction, though. I assume the issue's probably usually more in the downhill direction.
It's control down the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's one of those things where, like, would they split the speed limit and lower it going downhill if that was where they had the issue? I don't know.
I feel like, hey Doug, I feel like I'm in your shoes this time when you were talking about 88.
Yeah, because I know way too much about every nook and cranny of 88. The West Virginia Turnpike. I've been on the West Virginia Turnpike, but I haven't really been on it that much. I think I've really only been on. I've glitched it.
That is the curve before the exit. There's a lot of warning signs as you go southbound for that curve. So JVM made a comment in the chat, and he's exactly right. There's a pretty sharp curve, and they actually have basically guide signs for warning signs for that curve at the bottom. In fact, you can kind of see it if I'm with it. You see it on the left, that pretty tall, basically you think it's an exit sign. That's actually a guide sign for the curve coming up.
Yeah, this is quite a lengthy grade that we're on right now. We're climbing Flat Top Mountain, and we're going to top out at an elevation of around 3,200 feet above sea level.
This is flat.
On this section, just so folks know, of this turnpike's round trips 3 to 7, 8 times a year, and driven it through all types of weather and different things. So I'm like you are with 88, Doug. This is me.
How do you like it? How do you like the turnpike in the winter? Do they
it's
do a
not.
good job
I've never hit the bad times that they've had, so I've been all right.
Okay.
One time I did drive in the snow in the middle of the night, and it wasn't too bad. I was also 23, and I didn't, I thought I had all the adrenaline in the world. So
I just don't realize it until you do it.
I've been there. I remember one time I was driving down Long Island from Oswego, and there was wound up in a snowstorm in Binghamton, and the 3 lanes of travel on I-81 all of a sudden became 5 lanes of travel, and then there was thunder snow too, apparently.
So we're still coming up the top of this hill, and it's what I think someone said it's 3,300. I saw somebody mention it, or maybe you.
Yeah, I didn't mention that was 3,200 feet or something.
Yeah, it's a pretty high point, and I said someone saw the next exit's the last exit before the toll, and that's if I'm not mistaken, the ski resort is Snowshoe, and if you're driving southbound, you'll see the slopes, and you can see it in your rear view mirror, obviously northbound.
3252 according to JBM to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is the kind of topography that many of the interstates in West Virginia have to navigate. 64 east of Beckley has few grades that are similar to this one.
Yes.
79, not so much. I don't
79
think.
not as bad. Yeah.
79 is not as
North
bad.
or south of 68?
68. Especially around Cheat Lake, there's a nasty grade there.
And 70 east out of Wheeling has a pretty nice climb.
Yeah. Well, 70 in Wheeling in general is an adventure.
Yeah. You get that feeling. Yeah. That's why they call it the Wheeling feeling.
That's right.
Yeah, Corridor H goes pretty high in elevation too, I believe.
Well, I was just going to bring up when we talk about Corridor H on our upcoming program later in January. We're going to have to spend some time talking about the engineering challenges involved with building literally highways over mountains and having to move mountains. And when the Turnpike was built through here, this was really the first attempt to build a superhighway through the kind of rugged terrain that nowadays everybody just blasts through. So this was something of a groundbreaking highway when they built it.
It was.
Because of the challenge that it represented at the time.
No, there's not any plans, Matthew, to extend 79. And we're in Randolph County.
Randolph
And
County.
this
Randolph, the
is
red
my early
nose
top off
reindeer.
if you are shunpiking. So,
Yeah, well, interestingly, right. So you do not get a sign at the summit saying, here's the top of Flat Top Mountain. It's this many feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, different roads agencies are good about putting those up or not. I think it's cool when they put those up. It's informative.
Yeah.
It depends on
West
what
Virginia is all over the place with it. But
Well, we should talk for a minute about toll plazas. On the Turnpike here, I guess Adam, it used to be a ticket system, but it isn't anymore. Is that?
No, it's a barrier system. They converted that in the 80s.
Okay.
And it still takes cash. One time in the middle of the night in 1999, heading southbound, paid the $1.25 or whatever it was, all in pennies, because we couldn't find any.
At least I assume this was a change basket.
In the middle of the night, and just some of us. But yeah, you can exit, and some people say Turnpike and bypass the tolls. I mean, if you're going to be that stingy, you're going to be that stingy. But it's if you have time and you want to do it, good for you. But it's
So,
fair. It's just,
tolls aren't that much, but I know
No,
some people.
it's expensive now. It's like
It adds up.
$4.
For very according to
Yeah,
me.
it's a
So the
$4
tolls,
each
yeah.
error, so it adds up.
Well, yeah, it adds up, yes. But
I guess
$1.25.
is this plaza where the ticket system historically began too, or did they move the plaza?
Yes.
And somebody in chat, I think it started it was all trumpet, so it was more like the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
so there's no open road tolling on this road.
No, not yet.
Oh.
We never, but
You still got to
The
slow
closest
down to 5
you get-
miles an hour.
the closest you get to open road tolling is going all the way to the right, where it says easy pass only, and going through. But they still take cash. I think some of these have the old double, some of the extra to handle extra traffic. They may have some of the double ones. I know the further north ones have it. This one, no, this one doesn't. They will put signs ahead during the busy season saying, expect delays at the toll plazas, and there will be delays. You'll get backups at it. But there was $1.25 until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. And it went to $4, and that was like a big deal.
Yeah, I think it doubled just recently.
Yeah.
That
Well, I know that in May of 2012, it looks like the the toll was $2.
Okay, $1.25, then 2, then 4.
Yeah, they went from 2 to 4. Yeah, but they didn't even mess around. They just doubled it. So now it's like Delaware Turnpike times 3.
Yeah. When you
I think
compare
a
it
big
to the
part of
Pennsylvania
that-
Turnpike, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's a pretty easy to high pass on most of these. So if you really care that much and you want to take an extra 5 minutes per toll plaza, it's really not that hard if you plan around it.
So this wide median here, actually, there's like an old abandoned house in the middle of it, and different things. It's a wide median. So somewhere around here, this is one of my kids' stories. We're driving up here, and my son all of a sudden says, "Dad, why isn't there a ramp for this bridge?" I'm like, "Well, I guess the engineers didn't think that there was enough traffic on it to warrant." And he goes, "Well, I should write them and tell them they need a ramp."
I like his
Laura,
style.
That's awesome.
I
I
like
to
his
add
style.
about the. Yes, I like it too. I wanted to add. So clearly, I did my homework a little bit.
Thank you.
That's why I know all this stuff. But I think part of the reason why there was such a why it seemed like the tolls weren't raised forever, and then they raised a bunch in the past decade, is because in 2006, the Parkways Authority briefly raised the tolls, but a state judge rescinded it, and then the state legislator took the power of setting the rates from the commission, giving themselves reserving that power to themselves. So
the West Virginia Turnpike is probably one of the most, to my knowledge, is maybe the most political driven turnpike that I know of. I mean, Pennsylvania have its pace for this and all this stuff, and they play games. But as for just just mean-spirited politics, it can come out with the West Virginia Turnpike.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the state legislature is directly saying the toll shall be X and not letting the agency running the road have any control over that, that's unusual.
Yeah. And of course,
is there any lawsuits against that?
I don't know. I can look. That might be a good story to tell, because those 2 years when that happened, that were wrenches. I was living in Albany, so I didn't get to see what happened and all that stuff. I didn't drive it, so of course I missed those 2 years of it. Lucky me, I guess. that might be a good subject to research and go back and tell the story of for the blog. So that might be a good blog.
That's a good blog post right there.
Yeah.
You better claim that before I do.
Yeah.
Too late.
If you get it or
no, go ahead, Adam. That's your territory there, man. Go for it.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on 64 here, and I'll go here. I'm working on or starting to research on how 64, which was supposed to go follow 60 from like White Sulphur Springs into Charleston, got moved to here, and then the thought was until they authorized 79, that 79 was going to end in Beckley. And trying to see what caused that, if there wasn't, because it seemed like everyone thought, and from what the preliminary research I'm reading is that it was somewhat of a surprise that they ended up doing 79 to Charleston, because Charleston was more of a metropolitan region. Their words, not mine. Then Beckley, so Beckley got 64 instead, and you can argue that maybe that was probably for the better because of the impact Corridor L has had in the New River Gorge area. So I'm working on that, and hopefully we'll time that up with your Corridor L video, Dan. But it was an interesting thing, and 79 was originally. The idea was, I think it was. I have Matthew. I have a newspaper drawing clipping from the 50s that shows a dotted line of basically what they thought the extension south from Washington, PA would be, and it follows more of 19. I can't remember if it does L or if it follows what was 19, which is now West Virginia 41, from Summersville south. So I'll have to go and look at that, but I'm working on that.
Yeah. Speaking of interstates that were proposed and basically, in this case, wound up somewhere else. My understanding is that east of Charleston, I-64 was at one time proposed to follow US 60 instead of going through Beckley.
Yes, and actually, right. This is another thing that for a long time had, some indecisiveness on it. Mm-hmm. For a while, I-64 in West Virginia was not built anywhere west of, I believe, current exit 156 by Sam Black Church, because, that's currently where it diverges from the corridor of US 60, and there was planning for a while that it would follow just, 60 from there over towards Charleston. But they ended up building it over to Beckley instead, which is a longer route overall, but involved fewer miles of new freeway construction because it allowed it to use the existing turnpike. And I think, the reason they ended up doing that is just because they figured, well, all right, this is less money.
So we're coming up on this interchange here with 64, which basically was like the last tying piece of the modernization. Actually, the upcoming tunnel was, but in the Beckley area. I think this is what helped lead to the elimination of some of the ramp tolls. And I've read somewhere that if you head south, it's 2 lanes on 77, yet 64 parallels it to the is 3 lanes as it parallels it. And the thought was that they were going to put a toll plaza there, but they never did because of how they changed the decision on how they were going to do the tolls. But I don't remember. I was like 12, 13 when that happened. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. But I've heard that. But this is the 64 interchange. It's definitely more dramatic as you head south on 77.
Yeah, you got the big.
All right, so that's interesting though. So because I have noticed that the split between the two roadways is a long way back from where the actual Y is, and I saw that and figured, okay, they probably wanted to like put the split before the curve or something. Now you're saying that they did that so you could put a toll plaza there.
I can't remember if it was in the AA Roads Forum or MTR. One of the things I'm actually doing is, God help me when I have time, is I try to look through some old MTR posts to get ideas of things to write and things like that, because there was, up to a point there was good stuff on it. But so going through. So this is the Beckley work zone, which is a mess. In fact, when we went up in September, our GPS detoured us onto 64 onto the East Beckley bypass, which was the first time I was on part of that. So I gained new mileage this year. But
yay!
Road going GPS.
We were using. Well, I'm glad it did, because we would have been stuck in an hour and a half traffic.
Ouch.
So
it's not good.
Yeah. So the scope of this is we're basically adding a lane per direction, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't look that. When I've seen it, doesn't look too well of a job. So you're right. I thought it was widening, and sometimes I'm looking like, how the hell are they going to widen it? I'm sure when the finished product will be in.
I've seen road widening projects that happen all the time in places, and it's like, I just never seen them just push this over like this. I mean, they've oftentimes had to push the entire road over to one side because they're doing repavements all the way through. But it looks like this is just adding a lane, keeping existing pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a full depth replacement. So they're widening one side so they can put both directions on the same side, so that they can then shut down the one side completely, do a full depth replacement of subbase and asphalt, and then build that back up, and then move all the traffic to the opposite side so they can do the same thing on the first side.
I did not know that. Thanks for that.
So they eventually supposed to have 6 lanes here then, or?
I believe so. Yeah. See, the only way that you can do this and have the profile of the road work out right is if you just start from scratch, because you got to put in new under drain and drainage and all that stuff. So the best way to do that is to really just take what you had and start from scratch. You can widen out the existing roadways because to fit two-way traffic on them, because they're going to be that wide when they're completed anyway. So you're kind of accomplishing two things at once by doing that. But to do this the right way, you would have to do like a full depth down to the gravel recon.
Just basically regrade.
Well, because you need to reground it too.
Yes.
Yeah, that comes back to the profile issue. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I didn't know that's how they were going to do it, so it sounds like it's going to take a while.
Yes.
Years.
Yeah.
I've seen something of like a 10-mile rebuild take almost 5-6 years.
So I'll also notice it depends. There's some old button copy left here. There's also some when West Virginia did some funky ass signage and everything else in this whole area. It's quite interesting. This is also a new interchange. Someone mentioned it is a double trumpet. Yeah, this was not an original to the Turnpike. The 16, I think we just passed it. I think we're coming up on West Virginia 3, which is just south, literally just south of the original interchange. I got Beckley. I got a couple stories about the Beckley rest area I want to tell after this. Tamarack. I haven't been there. All I can tell you is about the girl I dated, which is probably more interesting. And that I dated a puppetry major and she performed there is probably more interesting than Tamarack and its whole.
I think there was a road meet at Tamarack once upon a time.
All right. So this is Beckley, and I don't know if it's here now, but at the top of the ramp used to, and the folks in the chat will know better, but there used to be a toll plaza, barrier plaza, right there where that tree is on the left and over that. And you used to be able to see the old junction box for the power and everything there they left over, but I might not be there now. Coming up here on the right, you see where, if I'm not mistaken, you see where the maintenance shed and everything that's the old Beckley interchange. It was a trumpet right here, and it followed this road you see here on the right. That's like this access road to 3. That was the old Beckley interchange right here.
And that was a trumpet which had a plaza on it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
So the Beckley interchange, Beckley one. The first story is a cleaner one than the other. Band trip in December 94, we went to the Hall of Fame Bowl. It's around 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and you have four bus loads of high schoolers getting off at this exit. The band director gets on the bus, each one, and says, "No, it's bathroom only, no one stops here." And at the time, they were actually Sbarro was still actually operating like 24 hours or so. They see the cars pull up, managers coming to the door, opening the door, letting us in. They're like making food. People come in, are getting as the chaperones to get coffee. And the night manager goes, "I need a new job." 90 people go in. Kids just use the bathroom, and you go, "Oh, good, need a coffee." And here they're like,
"Oh, that's."
Wow.
So the other story was in the middle of the night, heading north, going to my parents. I was going with another Christy I was dating at the time, and we were stopping and out there, and it was in the middle of the night, and there was like this couple. They were like making out, and they're like your stereotypical West Virginia couple, and everything else. It's like, all right, why are you making out in the middle of there? So we go to get something at the bathroom and at the convenience store. We walk by. They're moved in the car, and the car is pretty much it's bouncing. They're having a good old time. So stop the car. We bang on the car, and we say, "Put it away. She's seen bigger." And go.
Oh, baby, lick my tooth. No, the other one.
And can you imagine that story? Mom, Dad, how did I get conceived? Well, we were at the Beckley rescue. But yeah, put it away. She's seen big. So that's my 2 stories.
Wow.
So this is the corridor LX at US 19, which is not very well signed during the construction.
Yeah, as you can see.
Easily miss. You see there's a toll plaza.
Emergency detour A.
Yeah, and that's because of some of the bad wrecks and everything else. And that, like, A, I think, goes 19 to 79 back to Charleston. There's a couple of them and everything else. So it's not really well done, but I use that exit. Now, what I like to do just to pass time sometimes is, as I'm driving up, going north, once I get on that exit, sometimes we'll count the North Carolina plates that we see from 19 to till I get home, because then all right, these are people visiting family in Pittsburgh or everywhere else. And then going south, you can kind of know, because that's a split. People here are going to Ohio, Cleveland, and Columbus and everything else. And people getting off at 19 are typically going to, Western Pennsylvania, Western New York, and Ontario. But this is going here. And then I also heard a story. Wasn't on a trip on this, but I've been told from folks that went on a band trip earlier before I started that the bus missed the exit for Corridor L and had to turn around. They all turned around at one of the turnaround points here. They missed the exit.
U-turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, just use the median U-turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so we are now obviously north of Beckley. We have about 50 miles to go to reach Charleston. We're now on the northern half of the Turnpike. We're being joined tonight on this Roadway Whiz virtual tour by Adam and Doug from Gribble Nation, who are doing a great job of guiding us through the sites tonight. We also have Anthony, Laura, Mike, Josh, and Scott with us.
And you guys will never think of the Beckley rest area the same again.
I don't think so. I think you've forever changed my perception. So
I never really
got to watch out for those. You got to watch out for those horny couples.
I don't know. Bouncing cars in the middle of the night and rest area seems like that probably that ain't the only rest area where that's happened.
Oh, no. I've seen it happen before.
Oh yeah, but the line, put it back.
That does make the good story.
So this is the more rugged, I'd say, and Dan, I think this is the more rugged part. This is really, you're coming up here soon that they're going to reduce the speed limit. Some people say they're pretty strict about it. I've not experienced that, fortunately, knock on wood, as I knock on my skull. Yeah. But this is definitely the more rugged part of the turnpike, and it took, if I'm not mistaken, was the last parts to be widened and dualized and improved.
Yeah, so the actual last section was the Memorial Tunnel, but you're right, like that section, that 20-mile piece that we're coming up on was very late to the game as far as the widening is concerned. And as you'll see when we get onto that piece, there isn't really a median. There's just a concrete Jersey barrier, and there's just the two roadways right next to each other. Very reminiscent of what you would see on the Pennsylvania Turnpike in its more mountainous sections. They basically, due to really the lack of real estate because of all the rugged terrain in the mountains that we're going to pass through, they didn't have a lot of room to work with, so they basically shoved in a 4-lane road wherever they could, and just sacrificed having a median.
Yeah, I mean, most of the Pennsylvania Turnpike is like that just because of, it was an old road and that was how it was built at the time.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you're coming up on a fractional highway here.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you remember the old Road Geek Math site?
Oh, yeah, Road Geek Math.
Yes. I know.
I never really paid attention to it, but some people loved it.
H.B. Elkins did.
Yes. We have a comment from the chat from ATL Daddy Bear who says that all of the rest areas or service areas on the West Virginia Turnpike were known as glass houses back in the 1960s.
Why, were people throwing rocks at them or something?
Why? Is that
Can you explain why?
Because that's where Billy Joel was when he did that one album of his? Was he on the West Virginia Turnpike?
Start the fire.
No, not that album.
No, it was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
And it wasn't where what's his face proposed to Pam in the office.
I think the song was, "You're My Home" by Billy Joel, but he mentioned the Pennsylvania Turnpike, not the West Virginia Turnpike.
That's right, yeah.
But he does mention that home could be anywhere, so they could have had it be the West Virginia Turnpike too.
Yeah.
And John Denver did not. This was not the country road that John Denver was thinking about.
No. John Denver's country road was actually in Maryland.
Yes.
I think it was it Maryland Route 117?
Yeah,
I forget what.
Actually, there's an interesting theory that there might have been a family named Glass involved. Maybe Philip Glass was here if we're talking about musicians.
Yeah. My wife always, when we get into West Virginia, we'll end up playing country roads, and she always messes up the lyrics. I can't remember which one it is. I'll try to see if I can call her downstairs to see, but it's always funny. And I usually will say to her, "Hey Maggie, who sings this song?" "John Denver. Let him sing it."
With Old Country Road on Long Island, that whenever I see signs for that, I think Old Country Road, take me home. No.
Or you could be on North Country Road, or Middle Country Road, or South Country Road.
We're coming up on the second plaza for tolls, or plaza of tolls, kind of like the House of Ale, Doug.
Yes. Tolls, we hate them.
Toll Plaza B. The toll plazas have letter designations too. Like we passed Toll Plaza A a while ago. This is B right here, and then C is coming up in about 20 miles or so.
Right, and it will show up on your Easy Pass statement as such, which is interesting because usually toll plazas have a 2 or 3 letter code. These have single letter codes.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that on my statement.
Or just numbers, maybe, depending on where you go.
Only 4 of them, so.
Yeah, and the other thing I have noted about that has bothered me in a weird way is that those codes are not unique different agencies can reuse the same code. One that immediately comes to mind is that the code CLS is both Clark Summit on the Pennsylvania Turnpike and Clifton South on the Garden State Parkway.
Yes.
So, so you need to include.
They're able to differentiate between toll agencies.
I don't see West Virginia going all electronic anytime soon. That's for sure.
I don't either.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, no.
I think
Right now, the only ones that are all electronic of the Easy Pass world are really Pennsylvania, New York, Thruway. I can't think of anything else.
Mass Pike.
Yeah.
Illinois, even though you might think they're temporary, it seems like they're going permanent.
I would think they're going to go.
we're all electronic.
Yeah.
Carolina.
Chicago
Mhm.
Skyway will be.
Illinois did also have a few of their newer toll plazas that were basically built as all electronic.
Yeah,
They just kind of backwards implemented it everywhere else.
yeah. I mean, they're slowly closing off all the cash lanes in Illinois.
Yeah.
But they're still not sending full bills in the mail, are they?
No, and they will
Yeah,
never.
see, that's hostile. That's downright hostile.
That's stupid.
No. You're responsible for going online and paying.
I mean,
I know
it's
hospital, yes,
stupid, but that being said, that's the system used in parts of Europe. So, I mean, there was precedent for it, but
Yeah,
it's just unusual for the U.S. to.
it's part of the business. It's part of the business.
If you want to get back to Corridor L and you want to and you've done it enough times and you want to do something different, take the Turnpike to here, take 612, and it'll cut you back down towards the Oak Hill area, West Virginia 612. I've done that.
Yeah, 612 is an interesting drive. I have, and on that,
One of those roads with a seemingly randomly high number.
yes,
I think it used to be probably it probably was 61/2 at one point, and everything else like that. I wouldn't be surprised because West Virginia 61 is in that area, and remember
That actually would explain it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, was this construction oriented 60, or is this where they've lowered it, Dan?
I believe this is where the speed limit drop takes effect.
There used to be, and Josh, since you've been on it probably more recently than I, there used to be an old button copy sign for the West Virginia Turnpike, or Mossy, or was that at the ramp?
I haven't been on 612 in 15 years, so
That's about the same.
30 and a half.
yeah. And as far as 612, it was County Road 61/2.
So that's where the number came from.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
County Road 30 and a half.
Now, mind you, that you call it County Road, but the State Department of Highways still maintains it.
Yeah, they're more like Virginia secondaries, but
Right, well, because the thing about West Virginia is that, the State Department of Highways maintains basically everything that's not an incorporated city limit. There is no county road maintenance, so it's if you look at it something like 99% of road mileage in West Virginia is state maintenance.
yeah, I think the actual number is something like 93%, but it's insanely high.
So
Usually give me a couple minutes.
if it
I
was
can get
numbered,
the actual
expect to be maintained by the state.
Yes, and
Whether
they
it's a
have
circle or a square.
or a
It's
house,
the square.
or house roots too.
House roots.
Yes,
Matt,
house roots.
I didn't mean that it was West Virginia Turnpike Shield, and there hasn't been any since probably the 8th grade picnic or longer than that. But what I meant was there was a button copy sign either pointing to the Turnpike, it said Turnpike button copy, or was Mossy right off the Turnpike. I can't remember. But I've never seen a WV Turnpike Shield except for old Michael Suma photos. And like I said, they've probably been retired, and it's probably been since somebody's 8th grade picnic since that's been.
Yeah.
So.
Like, they do have them on
and there aren't any random ones surviving in the wild anywhere that we know of, unlike a couple of other toll roads whose shields have been nominally retired.
So we should be soon to the old tunnel, right? Now we've got tangents here, and I know that you wanted to highlight the tunnel.
The tunnel, we're almost there.
We got about 10 miles.
All right, good.
Yep. So,
Are we there yet?
We're not there yet.
Zachary would like us to be there. If you notice from his comments, he would like us to be there as quickly as possible. But
go faster, dude!
Oh, I have a new theory for what
deleted
called
his
glass
message.
houses.
Too late.
I'm good at calling folks out. Sorry, man.
All right. Laura, what do you want to say?
Oh, so I think I understand now why they were called glass houses, because they had a lot of glass. Ooh.
Smart.
So, okay. So also revisiting a earlier point, based on data from a few years ago. So this number might be slightly different now. West Virginia, the state maintains 89.41% of all roadway mileage, which is the highest of any state. But the percentage for DC is higher.
Well,
or one did it.
Anyone want to take a guess what state is the second most?
North Carolina or Texas or Pennsylvania?
Virginia.
No, and no.
This is percentage by what, per capita?
No, so a percentage of total miles of road in the state that are state maintained.
Delaware.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
84.64%.
There you go.
Hey, you would have thought Kentucky would be getting up there too, but no.
Delaware.
Kentucky is 34.92%.
Oh, really? With all those
I'm
states
in
that they have?
Delaware.
I mean,
See,
North
Delaware
Carolina is up
like
there. North Carolina is
Virginia
75.61%.
in North Carolina and South Carolina, in that every flippin' road is a state highway. So
South Carolina is 62.51%.
Yeah, that's
Virginia is 78.33%.
yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's only because Virginia is incorporated. So.
So this is a desolate area. Obviously, there's not really a lot of services on this part of the turnpike. And Bob, I saw your comment. Being on a sudden downpour on this road isn't fun. Actually, I remember as a kid, one of my first road geeking memories as a kid was like we're coming back from Myrtle Beach in the '80s, and we actually had to get off at the Glass House Beckley exit because it was raining so bad. With it, so yeah, and I hate being on any road, but this can be really not fun in the rain.
Yeah, these curves can be doozies when the road is wet or there's fog, because as we mentioned before, fog can kind of randomly appear in these valleys from time to time.
Yes.
Yeah. Last time I was on this road, back in October, it was pouring, it was foggy, it was not fun.
So you got the whole batch.
Old men snoring.
Yeah.
It was a wild full West Virginia getaway.
Every time I'm in West Virginia, it rains, so...
Damn, son. I gotta make sure they don't go when you go.
Anyone else notice that Wikipedia refuses to have independent articles on the West Virginia Turnpike? I think, Doug, you and I probably could know why, because we probably know who wrote the West Virginia Turnpike.
Well, I think the person who wrote it is a well-known individual, right?
I think it's Sherman.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's a Sherman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. This is a nice. It's not a bad travel plaza. I've stayed here. Stopped here a couple times, just to get something. Usually, we've stopped here with the kids like when we've gone to St. Louis or different things, because there's no other place to stop, and they want to stop. It's like a stop of last resort if you're like, all right, I'm trying to push through it, and all of a sudden you're in the mountains because you're driving, and the kids are like getting queasy, and if you're like Nash who gets car sick easily, you got to stop. And so this is like, it's a tiny one. It's with the exception of Beckley, these are very tiny. The rest of these are like almost like afterthought service plazas.
And these were all built with the original Turnpike, with the 2-lane main line, right? And then, so they were kind of built on the undersized, magnitude. And then they were just never expanded when the road was expanded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was southbound Hysteria actually just passed it up, and outside of that there hasn't been much expansion or anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always like on these travel plaza signs that they have a tab that says fax on it, because people still use fax machines apparently.
I have a hankering, some faxering.
Well, that shows how old those signs are too.
Yeah, right. Well, it's kind of like you'll still find signs out there that list phone as a service, and it's like, well, okay, there was a time when you didn't just have one of those in your pocket. If you needed one, you had to get off the road and find one.
Just out of I just searched out of curiosity about who wrote the resulting article, and I don't see Sherman anywhere on this one.
He may have used to. Oh, I don't know. Used to, but
unless he changed his name, because I know what his username was, and still probably use it out there. So.
Reviewing calls. What is it?
Sicer.
Yeah, but what is? I was just thinking. Crap. But on the Turnpike, they used to have those phone half-mile signs with, and like you thought they were put up like by Bell Telephone and everything else like that.
Call boxes.
No, this wasn't the call boxes. I remember that was a big deal when they added call boxes to the Turnpike in the 80s. But it would be a picture of the phone, a slide, kind of like the Vermont blue, that does like services or tourist attraction things, those type of signs, and it had phone and was in a non-standard font and everything like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they used to be at every exit. Before there would be like phone half-mile. For every rest of the service, or what are they in Pennsylvania? Service plazas or whatever they call them.
Or it could be like California and have some phone water.
Yeah, Adam, let's talk tunnel.
Tunnels.
So,
yes, Memorial Tunnel. Well, a two-lane tunnel in the spirit of West Virginia Turnpike, of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. What I think, Laura, if I'm not mistaken, was the last part to be bypassed. It was around 1987. You probably are looking that up.
Yeah, I think it was either 87 or 88, something like that. Yeah.
And June 6th, 1987. I was 6 days old.
Hey!
My brother was maybe 12 days old. My youngest brother. So how about that?
Who's youngest brother? Who's
mine? Adams.
Adam. Oh my gosh! So your brother and I are like days
May
apart.
27. He was born May 27.
Wow.
2 weeks late. I remember it. My mom, just a small story. My mom, when she told us we were having a kid, I said, me being me, I said, "Oh, great, we're going to need another chair at the kitchen table."
Very pragmatic reaction.
But this tunnel was bypassed. It's a better view if I think going southbound. You can see the old Memorial Tunnel facade where it says it in the marquee, if you want to call it whatever. And I believe they still use it for like DHS and different type of emergency training and different things like that, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure the folks in chat, I think JBM and
I think
Mike Reeser and a couple of folks that are very much involved with that know a little more detail on it. They probably can add to it if they're still doing it. But it was the last one, so the Turnpike really. After that, the last thing to be, dual on the interstate system, well, it wasn't interstate, but on a freeway type system was the Lehigh Tunnel. That happened in the early 90s, but this is the last one. And if I'm not mistaken, they replaced it with an overpass type bridge. I'd love to have seen how that was done to tie in and everything else. That would have been fun to, chronicleize and take photos of if you were able to. And I can only imagine what the backups would have been even then.
Yeah.
Going to it. That would have been great to have seen. Yeah, military and MS response training. Thanks. That's what I thought, Matthew. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The thing to remember is that, again, this was the last piece to be dualized. So this was the choke point for a few years. And the construction of the bypass, which we are now entering, the old turnpike used to veer off to the left here and duck underneath the tunnel, duck underneath the mountain on the left. The tie-in of this bypass and the construction of this, no doubt, caused a lot of disruption to traffic. And tying in at each end, likely would have been a logistical nightmare as well, trying to make it as convenient as possible for motorists. I mean, obviously, there's no perfect solution for something like this. When you're trying to keep a facility open and build a new facility that you're eventually going to move traffic over to, I would imagine that this was done. The actual switch over of traffic, I would imagine, took a matter of weeks to accomplish.
I bet.
Yes, probably.
All right, so we have a bit of rock cutting here instead of a tunnel now.
Yeah, we didn't go under the mountain. We just blew off the mountain. So,
which is a more modern way of doing it.
That's the ADHS.
This looks exciting.
In this country, at least.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm sorry to hear for your loss, and I haven't spoken to you in years, so it's good to see that you're on chat on the video too, and I'm sorry for your loss. Going through here, and the thing is, I never really experienced this part of the West Virginia Turnpike until after I really was out on my own and moved to North Carolina and was able to just road geek on myself on my own, because going to Myrtle Beach or different things south, we just did Corridor L and we bypassed this whole mess. We never really had to drive it. So I never really started experience it in the last 20 years. If we would have went this way in my early, when I was in my, 10 to 15, I would have probably gotten to see the Memorial Tunnel and everything else, in the mid 80s. That would have been great, but, we didn't do that, so.
I remember when I was driving the West Virginia Turnpike for the first time and seeing, not knowing there was a tunnel at the time that was bypassed. I'm driving ooh, cool, a tunnel. I'm like, It just kind of caught him in the corner of my eye, but that was one of the things I remember. That's really cool. There's an abandoned tunnel that I can see.
Yeah, and that obviously, if we want to talk about abandoned tunnels, I know you, Adam, and Doug have done a lot of research on the abandoned sections of the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
I see Matthew wants. Yeah, we have. I just want to answer him. He's hoping that the nonprofit. We've been waiting for that for 25 years.
Yeah, I mean,
if you can look it up, I have a whole thing on it. They started to. There was some movement in the last couple of years, and I haven't seen anything else. It's now Pike to Bike. I think it's changed now. The Allegheny Conservatory or whatever it was is doing that one under. It's gone through another study. They had a lot of promotion to try to. They even ran a marathon on it, or ran a half marathon, and I would love to have done that, but I didn't. But I haven't heard anything lately in at least 3 years, and it's kind of doing a Facebook search a couple earlier this year. I hadn't found any news on it. I'd love to, but they just haven't done
I'm actually posting some links right now that are about the basically the abandoned turnpike and the Pike to Bike, and
that's been. And there's a guy that you can do, and he'll actually do guided tours on it, and people ought to do there, and he makes a whole big excursions on it. I think that's the guy trying to resurrect it or something, but it's just there's been talk to try to make it a state park, which actually would be probably the best idea. Yeah, but I haven't seen much momentum on that lately, and I could be wrong. And if it is, please feel free to correct me.
I found a website. It's theoldpapike.com, which says pike to bike to destination location.
What was that? I'm sorry, I dropped something in here.
Theoldpapike.com.
And what did they say?
And basically, it looks like they're they have a lot of resources and articles about, basically bypassing the tunnel and things like that.
I haven't had anything. They had some legend. They had a push for it about 3-4 years ago now, maybe 5, and it's just kind of fizzled out again. And it's hard to get some of that funding with it. I mean, they've had, I guess REI has a big warehouse in Bedford.
And then I also posted a link. I also posted a link to the PABucketList.com website of exploring the abandoned Pennsylvania Turnpike. Mm-hmm. And I also included a link of the from Gribble Nation, basically after 16 years. Here's why pike to bike trails never gotten off the ground.
Math, they demolished that old Cove Fort service. Cove Valley is Cove Valley.
Cove Fort is the end of I-70 in Utah.
Valley, that's been demolished since God knows how long. And the bridge that used to carry over 30 is gone. But it's just, I don't know. I hope to. I haven't seen anything else. Like I said, REI has kind of helped and offered some money with it. I think they have a distribution center in Bedford. I've read that. But it's just, you got to get people to do that. You think Pennsylvania, D.C., Baltimore, Pittsburgh, it's just, you got to get the right people. Bedford County and Fulton County really don't have a lot of people, so.
Yeah. Right. I know that.
Another amusing thing with that is that I made a point of pulling off the road to take a leak in the former service plaza.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes.
PMS.
Put it away.
Going back to Breezewood and the Turnpike. I'm glad I got the chance to check that out. In 2004.
When Jeff had
I headed down, and you got that guided tour that Jeff Kitsko helped arrange.
And this is the last toll plaza. Hip hip!
Hooray!
Hooray!
Here's free.
We are now officially $12 poorer from having driven this.
And speed limit 60, might I add. Pretty slow for it.
Still is 60.
Yeah, $12 to travel, 60 miles?
Yeah, and
I'd still rather do that than bend my ankles and pay a Pennsylvania Turnpike toll.
Hey, a beef jerky outlet's coming up.
Beef jerky outlet.
So, how many original interchanges were there?
Beef jerky there. But if I'm not mistaken, this is a trumpet interchange for a bridge, and I have thought that they could easily just put tolls here just to get some more cash. You guys correct me in chat, or that friendly. I think it's this one, or it might be another one.
I think it's this one.
Yeah, I think it's
a trumpet, but is it an original interchange?
And they have an access ramp to 61, and then a bridge.
Yeah, and I think this would be a good spot to have a toll.
Yeah, you could have a ramp toll for southbound here. Yeah, that would make sense.
Southbound or northbound?
Getting on northbound, getting off southbound.
Yeah. Well, you used to have a plaza at the west end of the, or I guess technically the interchange on the south end of the Jaeger Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's why that interchange was built the way it was.
Yeah.
Yes. 61 was an original interchange. It was told.
There you go.
Okay, so there was that one. There was an interchange in Beckley, and was there one other one somewhere in between?
Oh, there was like 7. Most of them were up towards Charleston.
Okay.
Yep.
I think
so. If you've liked watching this presentation, make sure you hit the like button.
Yes, we got to get used to saying that for the podcast, Doug. If you like this podcast, be sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Yes. But for now, like this video, and if you haven't subscribed to Heard We Wiz, subscribe to that too.
Yes.
And subscribe to Facebook page if you haven't either.
Yep. So
And
we
check
got,
out the
And if
Roadway
not- and if you haven't-
Roadway's Instagram page account.
And if you're not, shame on you for 6 weeks.
I was gonna
Yes,
plug
just-
Why
my,
6 weeks?
Growing up listening to Mike Lang doing Penguin games, that he would always say, "If you miss this game, shame on you for 6 weeks." I've always
Okay.
I'm just there. I've kind of made it my own.
I believe JBM just listed the original 6.
Thank you. We've had a lot of good contributions from the people in the chat today.
Yes,
Okay,
I will say I've
so
actually learned a lot from the people in the chat about the West Virginia Turnpike, and I thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like, okay, so fine. So the original interchanges then would have been current. I mean, obviously, right. So current exit 9 was the south end, and then in the middle you would have had current exit 44, which was the one in Beckley, and then
Awesome.
we'll see. Which exit is Mossy?
60.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So that and then all the way up at 85. Okay, all right, yeah.
And
So they had a ticket system for a road with 4 intermediate interchanges. That's man.
yeah.
If not mistaken, JBM, and you might, I remember this vaguely, and I have to look it up. And at the Mossy exit, or one of the exits, were built because the governor, at the time, or somebody, but could have access to something or that. I've read that. It might be more lore.
Yeah,
But-
I mean,
It is West. Yeah, it is.
It's
yeah,
a politician.
it looks like Mossy was a partial interchange. So,
Yes, you're right. It was, and that's where I think it was. And yeah, Sandra, that I think it was a SP Cook story. So your mileage may vary on the accuracy of it, but I've heard that, and I think I've seen it from somewhere else that has as a second verification. I should look that up, and maybe we can have another item on that. I forget what was the other thing that I was going to write a story about. The toll increase. Maybe I'll look and see if that's going through. But that does sound like an SP Cook story. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but I remember seeing it somewhere else. And for those not remember, SP Cook, I think he was a West Virginia engineer or something like that. He was, very opinionated in different things, left, right, as in non-political, but just he might be right on stuff, wrong on others. But that does sound like a story of his.
Right, well, and he is still a presence on the AA Roads Forum, I believe.
yes, he is.
We are about 5 miles from Charleston, so the turnpike is going to be coming to an end shortly. I suppose it's time now to touch on the northern end of the turnpike. The most notable bridge along the turnpike is located a few miles ahead. It's named for the famous American aviator Chuck Yeager, who recently passed away. The bridge is a dual-span bridge, of course, because this turnpike was originally built as a 2-lane facility. There was just a single 2-lane bridge built originally in the 50s. The second dual span was added in the 80s as part of the modernization that we've been talking about. It's very interesting arch design to it, and it blends in very well with the surrounding mountainside. And also the turnpike, we should note, it cuts across the river up here, and in doing so, when it reaches the north end of the bridge, it basically does a 180 back on itself to more closely follow the river. That was all originally built as part of the turnpike. So the turnpike's north end, I believe, is officially the first interchange at the end of that, let's call it a hairpin turn.
Yeah. Yes.
Right, well, where it
Turnpike
would have
used
basically
to-
ended at US 60 there.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it ended at USS 60. I just across the bridge. And
and you can still sort of see the original interchange there.
Right. Well, right. The original trumpet is preserved as part of the ramps from northbound.
And you know what? I've never decided. You think you people will always look at old aerials and stuff like that. I never thought of looking at what that setup was at the north end when it was built. So I'm gonna have to go look at. That's something I'll go look at just to see and go through. But I've, all of us have probably looked at old aerials, vintage aerials, historic aerials, whatever. There's like different versions of aerials now, and to see what something used to look like, the old Michael Corner interchange of the week, that's one I never looked at. So I'll probably go and do that because I just never thought of it. So thanks for that.
I'm sure he'd probably appreciate that road porn there, wouldn't Adam?
Road porn.
Of course, when I was in West Virginia, it was right before I owned the drone. So, like, I got out of here and I finished filming this series, and then I was, out of here, and then it was only after that I bought the drone. But after doing some research on flight spaces and flight requirements in this area, I wouldn't have been able to fly in the Charleston area anyway. Flight
because they're pretty close by, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeager Airport.
Yeah, it's like right there. So,
yep. So that's the end of that.
Yeah, that pretty much restricts you because of the low-flying jets.
Yeah, and there's really not much actually in West Virginia that I would have liked to fly that I would have been able to because of flight restrictions. I mean, the New River Gorge area is national park land, or national preserve.
Yeah, you don't like that
there, so that eliminates that. Yeah, so I really didn't regret not having the drone for the West Virginia series because there really wasn't that much that I would have been able to do anyway.
Here we go.
We cross over the Kanawha River on the. This is the newer of the two bridges. This is the northbound bridge. The southbound bridge is the original, built in the 50s.
It looks a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, they actually had the presence of mind to build a shoulder on this bridge.
Ooh,
ain't that something?
So. With that, welcome to the south side of Charleston, and welcome to the northern terminus of the West Virginia Turnpike. We've made it along the 88 miracle miles, and we have arrived in the city of Charleston. However,
now, hold on.
However, our journey tonight is not quite over. We have some bonus coverage of the city of Charleston for you for the next few minutes. So we have that for you to enjoy.
We've survived.
Also, just want to point something out. That bridge does cross the Charleston city limits, but not in the direction you think it does. The end of the turnpike is not in Charleston. The south side of the river is.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so we've basically gone through a hairpin to come back towards the river, and now we're going to turn back to the right to parallel the river. This was part of the original construction. The turnpike officially ended at US 60 right here.
Yep, right about here.
Yep, and now we leave the turnpike and we enter the free section once again of Interstate 77. And we'll be following from here, of course, because we picked up 64 in Beckley. We'll now be following 64 for the remainder of this video.
And Doug, if it's free?
There's no toll anymore.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Doug. Doug, if it's free?
I think we lost Doug.
Oh, darn it.
If it's free, it's for me.
There you go. Thank you. The Gaston County motto.
So, City of Charleston, and we'll touch on this more when we get to the West Virginia webinars that are coming up. Charleston is an interesting town. It's a very unexpected confluence of the interstate system. We have 64, we have 77, and we also have 79 converging in the city. Charleston itself reminds me a bit of a bigger Binghamton, New York, in that sense. Binghamton's another one of those random cities that has 3 mainline interstates converging in it.
Right. Well, we noted on the Quickway live drive, and I guess we'll reiterate it here, that so that the Charleston, West Virginia has the same interstate topology as Binghamton, New York will once the 86 designation makes it in there from the west.
Yeah. Yeah, and someone mentioned in the chat the West Virginia State Capitol, which you can see prominently on the left. Unfortunately, at the time of this visit, it was covered in tarps because it was being structurally retrofitted in a project that should be completed in the next year, from what I understand. When it is not covered in white tarp, it is actually a very beautiful structure, and I highly encourage that you go and check out the State Capitol grounds, which you can see on the left.
And for those of you who have kids or stuff, the children's museum is pretty nice. It's 2 stories. It's actually pretty cool. We stopped there. It's off of one of these exits. It was a not planned stop, and like the State Capitol grounds, it's very nice.
Is that downtown?
Awesome. Adding that to the list for Rainy.
Yeah, it is downtown. I can't remember the exact name where it is, but it's actually closer to town than obviously the State Capitol is, and it also has a performance arts center. It's kind of just part of something. It was pretty neat. It was nice. It was, it was a nice one for a relatively small town.
Yeah, Charleston. I mean, I like Charleston. It's an interesting city, intricate, kind of shoved in here. The other thing about it too is that it's not as big as it seems driving through it on the interstate, because while it takes a while to get through the urbanized area on the interstate, the thing you have to realize with Charleston is that it is entirely along the river. You got miles of it along the river, but you go mile perpendicular to the river in either direction. You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
it's because of the mountains.
Right.
Yep.
It's when
Appalachia.
I gotta say it's a bigger Binghamton. I actually think as a city, I don't know the data and all this stuff off the top of my head. My first thought is Binghamton's bigger than Charleston.
They're close to each other.
Yeah,
Charleston
they're
definitely
about the
has,
same size.
Charleston has a bigger downtown than Binghamton. But I would say, that's kind of why I bring up Charleston as being a bigger size of that, bigger version of that, rather. But, they are, population-wise, they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
But here's the elevated highway through town. We have the split for 77, which departs to head up to Cleveland. My apologies. And I-79, which heads up in the direction of Western New York. My apologies. And we're going to stay on 64 West to head towards Louisville. My apologies. Actually, I like Louisville. Louisville's a nice town.
You think you got an extra vowel sound in there?
You know what? And
Louisville.
We'll go through. It'd be interesting if it would have been alternated, where 64 would have went into Charleston and 79 would have went to Beckley. How different would this setup be?
Yeah, I mean, you think about how different this area, the city, would be. Yeah, I wonder how that would have changed travel patterns and travel habits and stuff like that. And of course, that all has an impact on the development of these cities. So maybe Beckley would have been a much bigger population center than it is today. You never know.
I mean, logically, in that scenario, you would have still had a 64-77 concurrency. It just would have been a shorter one.
And Turnpike. Yeah, it would have just been a big junction, at that. Yeah, the 60 interchange would be a bigger junction. I mean, that would have been interesting to see.
Or not even, because that's the other thing too, is that there is a good 10 miles where the Turnpike is south of the river and 60 is just north of it. If you were trying to build an interstate paralleling 60, why would you would probably have put the split at Cabin Creek.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep, so we crossed the Kanawha River for the 17th time, and we're on the Arch Bridge, which was built in 1975. This was one of the last pieces of I-64 to be complete in West Virginia. Obviously, the piece we mentioned before from east of Beckley out towards Sam Black Church was the last piece, but this was the last piece within metropolitan Charleston to be completed. The bridge opened in 1975. It's named for Fort Hill, which is the mountain that was blasted away to make way for the interchange with US 119, and this interchange was also the northern end of ADHS Corridor G, which we will revisit in a future video. We are now heading out of the city of Charleston, heading west on 64. Now, Adam, can you explain why South Charleston is located compass-wise to the northwest of Charleston? Is there a reason for that?
I would not know that at all.
I mean, it is downstream of Charleston.
That might be. I don't know. I don't know that much. I don't know the Charleston naming of towns and stuff yet. I haven't dove into that, so I'm sorry I can't answer that.
Yeah, because the thing that I was thinking of was along the lines of what Anthony said about it being technically downstream, which is correct.
Yeah.
The Kanawha River flows into the Ohio River north of here. But so that was kind of what I was thinking. Like maybe there was some sort of maybe south being synonymous with downstream at one time or another. But
who knows?
When you look at it on a map, you see Charleston, and then you see South Charleston off to the northwest, and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right. And it doesn't, but, you know, that's just how it came to be, supposedly.
Good old West Virginia.
So, 64.
Out this direction is also the town of Nitro, one of the cooler town names out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have the whole 35 connection here, which is, you know, it's interesting if you're trying to go into parts of Ohio, whether it's Columbus or Dayton or Toledo and stuff. There's so many different ways you can go and cut across now. 35, 23, 30, 35. Wait, I don't know if 23, 35, 33. There's just so many different ways that you can go and just. And pretty much be equal same time if you're heading north south through, you know, from the southeast into Michigan and Ohio. There's a lot of different possibilities that you can take, really just from the Charleston area.
52.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, that's in Huntington.
Yeah. So, but I last did 64 when I helped my brother move to Baton Rouge from Pittsburgh, a year and a half ago, and not a bad construction here can be bad, but because they're, you know, you can see the shape of the road, they're doing some stuff here, and I think a little further west. But it's a nice drive, and you know, once 35 leaves, it's a little different, but it's a pretty nice drive.
Yes, you know, this bridge, both directions have slightly different alignments.
They redid this thing a couple years ago.
So the bridge we're on right now was the original bridge when 64 was first built.
Yes.
And then they built the bridge for eastbound traffic, I guess it is, fairly recently, like about 20 years ago, I want to say.
Less than that. 10. I want to say 10 to 15. It was less than 20. I'm almost. Okay. Somebody will correct me, but it was. It was a big deal.
Yeah. No, that bridge won awards for design, engineering, and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's a beautiful bridge to look at. It's a concrete precast segment bridge.
About 10 years ago, it looks like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm at 2009 Street View shows 4 lanes on the eastbound. On the westbound bridge. So
yeah,
it was around 2011, I think. Reopened.
Institute.
Yes.
I
stayed at that Super 8 on the left over there too.
The Institute of West Virginia.
Well, we are going to.
I think I stayed at that Super 8 the night before the Pikeville meet in 2013.
Well, we are going to be wrapping up this video in a couple minutes, so if anyone in the live chat who's still watching has anything else they'd like to bring up or have us address, now's a good time to get your final thoughts and grievances in there before we start to wrap this show up. But it's been great having everybody with us tonight. I know Adam has helped carry us to the finish line tonight with all his knowledge, but really we've had a lot of great contributions from a number of people tonight. So
just don't stop at the Beckley, West Virginia rest area in the middle of the night, and you should be fine.
We're due. Might have a show. If you're really a freak, you can go put on the show.
I don't know.
Adam, if you stop there, you might see Christy again, you know?
Oh, no. Hey, I got a story about the third, and Laura was there, and Doug was there for that, if Doug is still there. Adam Froehlich's bachelor party we had, and it wasn't really when you think of it, was just us getting together, and we ate at a little restaurant, Mexican, I think it was, Laura, in old Alexandria, Virginia. It's a 2-story thing. I'm coming down the steps after we're done eating. I open the door. This is what, 2012? No, 2015, because Colton was 2. Just went up. Open the door. I look to my right, and my ex-girlfriend, another Christy, is walking down the street. And it's like, you open the door, your eyes lock, and you go, hey. and it was just like, what the hell just and that was just interesting, and I was just like, okay. And as walking, I'm like starting to crack up laughing, and I can hear the guy. I think she got married after we broke up in October of 2008, and I met Maggie in May of 2009. But I think she's married. And he goes, who was that? And I didn't hear what she said or anything. But it's just like you open the door, and it was like, hey. Like, so yeah, running into an ex at a basically a road meet, that was kind of fun.
I think the comment "West Virginia for lovers" needs a little respect. Thank you for that one, Delbert.
Is it West Virginia for lovers or Virginia
no,
for lovers?
Virginia. It's Virginia.
No, it's Virginia, but in this case...
Oh, okay.
in West Virginia, I mean, at the Beckley rest area, it's quite a...
You know what? I'm never going to look at that rest area the same ever again, thanks to you guys. So.
Well, I live in West Virginia, so...
Yeah, so thanks for that. You know what? I recently put up a post about that service area on my
I know, that made me think of the story. Page. Thank you.
Yeah. I got it out just in time before you told me that story.
Oh, wait, that sounds pretty bad right there. Got it out just in time. Sorry.
But,
okay, then.
But
had she seen bigger.
Okay, okay. Let's all just take this off our minds right now until after the show is done.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone.
Yes, you guys can screw around all you want after we're done with the live show. Okay.
Corpsing.
And Brian Wilson Kessler is right. Southside Virginia is for peanuts. They're Skippers, Virginia, exit 4, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of peanuts in that area. Also in northeastern North Carolina, but peanuts in Virginia, south. I guess that's South Side or Tidewater area. I'm not sure where the border of that is anymore. But that Skipper's exit off of you can get some good peanut farms and peanuts there.
Oh, good.
Yes, also along US 460, east of 95 on the way to Hampton Roads. There's a lot of different peanut farms that way too.
Good grief.
See, we saved it. Thank you, Brian.
Yes, Wakefield, Virginia. That's the place. I knew. I was trying to think of what it was. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mark in the chat.
And thank you, Scott, for the obscure Peanuts reference. Carlos wants to know, Wiz, will you still attend the Outer Banks Road meet? Well, first of all, that is not my meet. It's not a meet that I'm hosting. It's a meet that really the person to ask, and it's a shame he's not with us tonight, would be AJ, because that's his meet. So I don't know what the status of that meet is. I can't really answer that question without knowing what the status of it is or what the parameters of it might be.
He has talked about pushing it back, so it's possible it will not happen in 2021. That is
your official term.
What's the official term?
It's to be determined, obviously. It's still scheduled, but that can change.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
it's up in the air right now, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, because that is one that I'm interested in going to, but, obviously, I ain't going if it's not happening.
A lot can change in 3.5 months.
Gee, you don't say. Gee, I wonder how we learned that.
A lot of change in last 9 months.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh, that's all I got for tonight, guys. You got anything else you want to throw in the mix before we sign off?
That's all, folks.
I'm looking forward
Let's
to
just
doing
do some
L-
7 and 7 together.
I'm looking forward to 79 and Corridor L, and I don't have at least a lot cleaner stories than I have than the West Virginia Turnpike.
Well, these are some old timers that you told us tonight. I don't have anything that good. But
Yeah, I don't think any of us are going to be able to top that.
Yeah, no.
But,
I won't.
No, look, I think the West Virginia part of the calendar for season 2 is going to be a lot of fun to dive into, and we just got a little bit of a teaser of it tonight. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting diving into these highways and getting to know them a little bit more. And again, we kind of shoved in a West Virginia episode this week, but we've got 3 episodes of Michigan coming up in the next 3 weeks. So,
Curious road geeking.
yeah, and hey, no weekends off for us. So, we'll be here. So, but anyway, I want to thank our panel tonight who was joining me via Skype. We had Adam Prince, who was basically, carrying the team across the finish line tonight. He does a great job with Gribble Nation. You can find Gribble Nation online at gribblenation.org. We have a Facebook page, Gribble Nation. We have a Gribble Nation Roadcast now. So if you follow our Facebook page, you can find the links to our first episodes of the podcast. I think Adam and Doug have done a great job with that so far. Unfortunately, it seems as though Doug passed away at some point during this episode, but he was with us for a good part of it, at least in the beginning. But we'll have to send somebody over to check his vitals to make sure he's still with us. But Doug is another guy who does a great job on Gribble Nation, so check out his work as well. Laura was with us from mdroads.com, and of course her husband Mike was the original architect of that website. So it's great seeing her and the husband and the offspring along the way. Who else did we have with us? We had
This was really fun tonight.
Yeah, it was great to have you. We had Anthony, we had Josh, we had Scott, and tomorrow's guest on the interview is Scott. He is an admin for the AA Roads Forum, so we'll talk to him. We'll get his side of the story on the forum. That should be interesting. So we hope you can join us tomorrow, and of course, we'll be busy through the month of March with these live programs on the weekends. So we hope you can join us for all of those in the future. We can't wait to talk with you about Detroit next Saturday, but until then, guys, I think I'm going to sign off unless you guys got any parting shots you got left, or did you already exhaust your resources with that?
I'm out of bullets.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll sign off, and from all of us here, thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on our next live episode. Take care, everyone. And go Titans.
Go Pack!